Hello, everyone, and it's good to be with you today from unceded Algonquin territory to talk about my private member's bill, something that has been supported by the entire NDP caucus, to put in place a guaranteed livable basic income. It's no secret we're in an affordability crisis, and as was reported in Ontario, food bank usage is at an all-time high. And the Ontario organization responsible for food banks has called it archaic social safety net that is not meeting the needs of people. And this is resulting in a food security crisis and a housing crisis, and what I have often referred to as a human rights crisis. Now, as I've said many times before, I'm not offering anything new. We have income guarantees in this country. GIS is an income guarantee, not livable. Disability benefit is an income guarantee, not livable. All I am asking to do is to increase the current income guarantees to make them livable and spread them out for those who are falling through the cracks. And I am going to be watching all MPs in this House. I am going to be watching every MP in this House today, especially the Liberal government, to see if they are truly dedicated to uphold the Canadian Charter, to ensure that all people can live with dignity and human rights, because we know that is not happening right now. And we know things have never been so difficult for so many people across the country, experiencing first time being unsheltered for the first time in increasing amounts, increased numbers of people using food banks. And we know that although this Liberal government has spoken about the affordability crisis, they have not met the moment. And we know the Conservatives, we know exactly what they have done. Now, the NDP has worked really hard to make things easier in this country. We fought and won to put in place a dental care plan, a pharma care plan, a national child care strategy, anti-SCAB legislation to protect workers. So I will be watching today, and I expect all MPs who unanimously said that they were going to support the implementation of all the calls for justice of the national inquiry, including putting in place a guaranteed livable basic income. If they don't vote in favor, it's another punch in the gut to the national inquiry and this government's commitment to implementing the calls for justice. It is a punch in the gut for the many seniors, especially women, who spent their whole life caring for their families, who cannot live on the current allotment they're provided for GIS. To the disability community who has been legislated into poverty by consecutive Conservative and Liberal government, it is another punch in the gut to their human rights. So I'm urging all members of Parliament today to do the right thing, to uphold our responsibility as members of Parliament, to lift up our Constitution and our Charter and vote in favor of Bill C-223. To put in place a framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. And it's with that, it's my pleasure to invite up to the stage Natalie Appleyard, who's with Citizens for Justice and Peace, to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Gazan. My name is Natalie Appleyard, and I'm a socioeconomic policy analyst with Citizens for Public Justice, a national organization of members inspired by faith to act for justice in Canadian public policy. We have long partnered with researchers, academics, community service providers, faith communities, Indigenous organizations, and individual people who live with the daily realities of poverty to call for a guaranteed livable basic income in this country. Chronic poverty in Canada is not inevitable. We have evidence-based solutions that we know make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Guaranteed livable basic income is one of these proven tools. Basic income programs have improved people's food and housing security, physical and mental health, educational and employment opportunities, as well as their ability to care for themselves and for others and engage in their communities. While public programs, services, and regulatory controls also play a critical role, cash reaches people quickly and allows them to spend money according to their unique and specific needs and priorities. Basic income programs have also resulted in downstream savings for healthcare and justice systems, and in fact were not shown to decrease labor force participation rates. Conversely, our current income supports are grossly inadequate, inaccessible, and inequitable. In 2022, there was only one household configuration in one province in this country that received a welfare income that was actually above the official poverty line. That is a low bar that we are far from reaching. Claimants describe many income assistance programs as dehumanizing, with application processes that are inaccessible, exclusive, and at times even expensive. These systems are a regular source of stress, and they keep people trapped in a cycle of poverty, precarity, and poor health. Inadequate income is inextricably linked to food and housing insecurity, poor physical and mental development and health, education and employment opportunities, incarceration, disability, and social connection and participation in public life. The risk factors and consequences of low income are quickly compounded, trapping people in a cycle of poverty that can be intergenerational. Our governments have a legal and moral obligation to create the conditions in which all people can access an adequate standard of living. This obligation includes the allocation of public funds where they are most needed and can be most effective, as well as regulatory controls and the generation of revenue to support these investments. It's time we put the evidence and our human rights obligations into practice in Canadian public policy. A guaranteed livable basic income is a critical component of an effective, equitable social safety net. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments and your contributions to the movement. I'd like to call up my good friend, Senator Kim Pate, who has the same bill. She's put forward the same bill on the Senate side, calling for the immediate, to put in place a framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. Kim?
Thank you very much, Leah, and thank you, Natalie, and thank you to all of the folks out there who have been part of this movement for a very long time. I came to this after decades of work with folks who are left behind by every other system, folks who end up criminalized and incarcerated. How did I come to this? Because the jails are full of people who are poor, who are racialized, who already experience inequality, social, economic, and health inequality. So our bill is before the Senate Finance Committee at this stage. We would hope that your bill, Member Parliament Gazan, will actually be passed and end up before committee as well, because what we're trying to do is encourage the governments, and certainly we have many municipalities throughout this country. The BC Federation of Municipalities recently en bloc said that they wanted to see these kinds of negotiations. And what we're calling for is that the federal government engage with the provinces and territories, municipalities, and Indigenous governance bodies to talk about how we could implement this. As Leah Gazan has already pointed out, this was one of the primary calls for justice of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls inquiry. It's been the subject of resolutions for most parties, not all, and it is something that, virtually every argument that is raised is shown to be a straw person, as in terms of They are myths and stereotypes about poor people that get raised. And anybody who's interested in more details about that, we have accumulated every negative myth that has been created. We've developed the fact sheets to counter. And as Ms. Appleyard pointed out, the benefits are legion, even in programs where they weren't finished, like the Manitoba Mincome Project, the Ontario Project. And I've just come back from Norway, where talking about the intersection of addressing homelessness by also addressing economic insecurity is so evident when you look at some of the Scandinavian countries. So I want to thank you very much. I wish you all the best today. I'm hopeful that your colleagues in the House of Commons will follow suit and get this to committee and get this to be one step closer to reality for the far too many Canadians who are being left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Pate, for your important contributions. We have an important vote in front of us. We have an important vote in front of us at a time where we're seeing, for example, epidemic of gender-based violence, something that has been declared by the province of Nova Scotia and numerous, almost 100 municipalities across the country, calling for a gender or a guaranteed livable basic income if we are really serious about tackling gender-based violence in the country. We have a government that have called themselves a feminist government, yet today they have an opportunity. Today they have an opportunity to demonstrate if they are really committed to ending gender-based violence, if they are willing to make a vote to ensure gender equality for the many seniors, women, who don't benefit from pensions. We are calling on the federal government to do the right thing, to stop the legislative poverty against the disability community and ensure that all people in the disability community have a livable income, in addition to other supports meant to meet specific and special needs. So I urge all my colleagues to do the right thing and to vote in favor of Bill C-223 to put in place a framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. Thank you, and I can take any questions. We can take any questions.
We will now take questions on Zoom. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions sur Zoom. Si vous avez une question, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la fonction main levée. Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci.
Thank you very much.